首先还是感谢各位同学跟老师然后就是说在这个下午非常炎热的下午，然后到这边来参与这一个演讲。那我先讲一下就是说我们邀请Petar Milat其实是在博班平台，就是北艺大的博班平台的项目。跟当代馆就是现在一个穿越正义的展览的一个合作之下，我们共同来邀请今天的主讲者Petar Milat。那我稍微先介绍一下Petar Milat，就是他是克罗埃西亚的一位策展人，也是制作人，然后也是一个艺术机构的总监。那他就是说，其实从事非常多的，不管是影展，他现在是欧洲人权影展的策展人，然后他也有非常多的一些跟知识生产比较有关的出版。那也因为这样，所以Petar Milat跟那个欧洲很多的艺术家，还有策展人，还有特别是哲学家，其实关系都非常的密切。那里面他工作特别密切的，像利律贝曼，还有像康斯耶这些人。那个我们就是说Petar Milat其实他在当代馆已经进行过一次演说。那在那一次的演说比较聚焦在就是利律贝曼他跟影像之间的关系。然后今天其实利律贝曼我们可以看到他的标题是 Becoming Former。那这个其实是非常有趣的事情，就是说Petar Milat他对于洪熙叶的阅读，对利律贝曼的阅读，其实非常的精确。而且他其实用艺术实践的方式或策划的方式，再去提出一些新的看法跟新的观点。那所以我们今天其实非常的有幸，其实他目前在发展的这个想法，其实是他非常近的一个研究。那就让我们热烈的欢迎一下Petar来给我们演说。
Thank you, Chin. Thank you for coming. I'm happy that we could this talk presentation really welcome. It's just thinking that maybe we are not in Asia, but we are somewhere in California. Or maybe even in the country I come from. So, which is Croatia, but I'm even more specific. I come from the seaside in Croatia, which is called Dalmatia, the region, which is also beautiful. So, I hope that maybe at least some of you will come there.
所以欢迎各位今天来，我们今天在非常美好的天气里面要举办这场座谈。我看到天气好的时候，觉得好像在美国加州一样，或者是就像我的家乡克罗埃西亚的海边小镇一样，非常美好的天气。希望各位有朝一日有机会也可以到克罗埃西亚来。
So my presentation will be divided into 3 parts. I will have an introduction outlining, let's say, the most important ideas I would like to, in a way, to demonstrate, to present you in this talk. Then I will a second part, which would be rather theoretical or philosophical. Let's say, just briefly then go with 3 names: Jacques Rancière, Alfred Zongrettel, and Georges Didibana. And then the third part, arts, would be literature, with 2 Hungarian authors, films, 5 short films. So we will see how long we go. Maybe we'll have the time to see all the 5 films, which are altogether 30 minutes in total. And then, just for the very end, also one example from music. American-Japanese artist.
各位看到今天的演讲总共分为3个部分。一开始的时候，在简述部分跟各位介绍他今天希望跟各位提到的观点和提出的论点。到第2部分的时候，会比较兼具理论或者是哲学性，会提到这3位哲学家跟他的分析。 然后最后呢，我刚刚提到的是在艺术里面这种论点、这几个理论跟想法如何在文学、电影或者是音乐当中去体现跟呈现出来。文学部分举的是2个匈牙利的文学家，那影片的部分当然看时间充不充足，也许如果有机会看完整部5部影片的话，就是只用30分钟。最后再给各位一个关于来自音乐的例子，这位是来自美国裔日籍的音乐家。
But before I begin, I will show you a clip of 3 minutes. It was recorded and edited by my friend, a young film director from Belgium. Her name is Nina de Vlogen. It's 3 minutes long. And therein you will see quite an important philosopher for myself, but I guess also for many of you here. His name is Jacques Rancière. You will see Jacques together with his wife Danielle. You will see them also with some dancers also from a quite famous dance company, Rosas, from Brussels, and also with some amateurs, some local people. Everything was shot in Croatia, on the island of Vis, which is also nearby the island where I do come from. And I take it as an example of what I would like to do today. So you will see a philosopher and also the other people. They were asked to perform an exercise. And this exercise was, what you will see, they have watched the gestures, hand gestures of Jacques Rancière, the recordings of his lectures, and how he moves his hands. So the exercise was in a way to repeat, make a kind of choreography with hands, how a philosopher, how he gestures while he performs. So this is the first period.
接下来看到这3分钟的影片，来自于比利时的年轻导演，叫做 Nina de Vlogen。这位年轻导演，他拍摄的是洪思燕这位哲学家，他的妻子以及来自布鲁塞尔的专业舞者，还有一群业余者，他们在克罗埃西亚的小岛上面拍摄这部作品，总共3分钟的时间。他们主要做的这个练习呢，其实是要模仿洪思燕他在演讲的时候手部姿势的变化，等于说去模仿他的手部姿势之后，好像做一段舞蹈一样。所以可以看到，他们基本上是在重现或者是试图去模仿这位哲学家当他演讲的时候手部姿势的变化。
So I come now to the introduction. I was trained as a philosopher, and then at some point I have become something else. Nevertheless, all the time I'm dealing with philosophy, and then I had a problem how to say about that. So by profession today, probably I'm more a curate, a more executive person. But by vocation, I'm still a philosopher. And then at some point, I realized maybe that I could name myself a former philosopher, ex-philosopher. So let's say this was, first of all, in a way, my autobiographical imperative, what you will hear from me today.
他其实是讲者是学哲学出身，但后来他其实在做的事情，他当然还是其实他就在关心跟接触哲学的议题，就是平常在实践跟工作的时候，是比较接近像是策展人，所以他后来就是自己找一个定位，在做自我介绍的时候，常常说自己是前哲学家，然后他这个称号跟这个称呼也会跟他今天要跟各位介绍的主题有关系。
So what I would say then, that unlike a philosopher who is after and who has to deal with things with conceptual and argumentative coherence, a former philosopher is setting up a resonant environment, an ambience. And former philosopher's presentation, I would say my presentation, is then rather like an introduction to imaginary exhibition, where all material displayed is on equal footing and of same importance.
一般而言，他认为哲学家他们在追求的是在论述还有观念上面的一致性，但是他身为前哲学家，他今天希望去创造出一个让大家能够产生共鸣的环境，所以他今天这位前哲学家的简报当中，他强调的是，他想要去介绍的是一个好像想象中的展览一样，在这个想象中的展览当中，每一个素材、每一个内容都是以相同的重要性来呈现的。
And now the general idea which I will, let's say, present to you, in a way, is a wordplay.
接下来跟各位讲到今天的主要概念，好像是文字游戏一样。
So on the one side, as a former philosopher, I'm interested into this adjective former, what former means. And on the other side, I'm also quite interested into the notion of form, aesthetic form, or whatever form. And this wordplay of form and former, or this closeness of those two notions, it is the thing that interests me.
今天要跟各位提到这个英文词叫做 form 跟 former。former 这个词刚才提到前哲学家就是用 former 这个词 former， 但是在谈到艺术或美学的形式的时候 form 这个词是名词。他现在好奇的是这两者之间的关系，所以 former 既是前的意思，同时也是形成者或者成型者。
And so, if in history and arts, especially, or in any other history, if we are interested into how form changes, how form develops throughout history, so this would be, let's say, the usual approach, that we see how forms develop throughout history. My intention here, or my claim is, again, and this is a wordplay, this is not an argument, this is a wordplay, is that form is form is not just a symptom, it's not just a sign of a history developing, but actually that form is the way history progresses. So my claim is that, again, it is not history that makes form different, or that in a way develops or changes form, some specific form. My claim is that form is actually maybe the prime case, or the paradigm case of the historical change, or mutation, or transformation.
在一般而言，史学家，无论是艺术史学家或研究任何历史的这些学家，他们在关心的是在历史的过程当中，到底这些形式是如何流变的，在那么多的时间里面，形式如何慢慢的变化。但是今天他所要提出的论点是，一般人可以认为是历史造成了形式的改变，或历史的洪流当中形式开始变化。但是他今天的论点认为，其实形式并不只是一项征兆或是一个符号而已。其实形式会带动历史的变化，甚至说形式是造成历史演进的主因。
And so now come my formula, my definition, which is again a wordplay.
接下来就是他对于形式的定义，当然这同样也跟英文的文字有关系，文字游戏有关。
So form is an operation whereby X becomes former X. Usually, if you think of philosophy, especially in philosophy, form, in distinction to the material, form is usually the thing which makes a thing complete. It is, in a way, form is the specific thing that makes something, that makes identity of some material. So it is actually this form is the essential part of something. And what I have here is something else. So it is usually the form would, let's say, would go, form is an operation whereby X becomes X. This would be, let's say, the standard philosophical treatment of it. My claim is a bit different. Form is an operation whereby X becomes former X.
在一般的这个概念当中，一般认知的物质世界里面， 这些形式是让这个物质变得完整的一项元素，也就是说，有了物质之后，因为有了形式，我们能够给它一个身份、一个名称，所以物质还有这个形式，形式是整个名称、整个概念里面非常重要核心的一环。所以一般而言，如果我们看这句句子的话，通常我们认为在形式的作用之下，某个东西因此成为了某个东西，因为它有了特定的形式。但他今天的论点是在形式的作用之下。这个东西反而变成了前的什么东西，比如说前哲学家，或是前什么东西，是因为形式的作用影响。
Again, in European philosophy, from Aristotle to Hegel, and the formula of the form is an operation about x becomes x. So this is the form is the thing that makes a thing complete, object complete, or perfect.
在一般的哲学家，无论从雅斯哥读到黑格尔而言，他们都认为，这个传统的哲学的概念是因为形式的关系，让某个物件变成物件现在的面貌，所以形式是物件成型的一项重要原因。
So my claim again is that this x is not something completely different, but that it is exactly the form of x. So you have this doubling, which is very interesting to me. So that x in a way becomes form x.
在今天要提出的论点里面，这个形式因为形式作用的关系，让这个 x 变成了我们叫做前 x。那这个 x， 这个前 x 跟 s 之间，它们有它的相似性，但是也有它不同之处，所以才会多了这个 form 存在。所以这也是他今天会讨论到底形式造成了什么样的影响。
And so, for example, adjective of form, which usually is formal. In my case, the adjective of form would be former.
在这种情况之下，一般英文里面 form 是个名词，它的形容词应该是 formal，F-O-R-M-A-L， 就是形式的。但他今天呢提出的这个想法和论点认为，他认为 form 这个形式一旦变成形容词之后，它反而变成了前这个字。
To say, then form of philosophy is former philosophy, form of art is former art, and etc. etc.
所以举例来说，我们刚才提到哲学的形式，如果照他的观点而言，哲学的形式就变成了前哲学，艺术的形式就变成了前艺术。
Or if I paraphrase a famous quote by Friedrich Nietzsche from Ecce Homo, his famous book, Nietzsche's famous formula is how one becomes what one is. So this is Nietzsche. My formula in this case would be how one becomes what one was.
所以以尼采他非常有名的作品的《Ecce Homo》这部作品里面提到的一句名言是说，他是说人如何成为他现在的面貌。那如果在今天讲者的这个论点当中，就变成人如何成为他过去的面貌。
I come to the first, let's say, part of with those operations, temporal operations in philosophy and theory.
接下来我们要听到在第二部分会介绍的是这样的一个战时的运作或战态的运作如何在历史或者是在哲学当中呈现。
And the first operation, temporal operation that, let's say, I think is important for my concept of former, is a notion of fiction, as it was developed in recent years by the French philosopher Jacques Rancière.
在今天提到这个问题的时候，一开始跟各位介绍的是Rancière他所提到的虚构的概念。
Rancière, from his talk at the Venice Biennale 2011, and this talk was called "In What Time Do We Live?" He has developed this philosophy which talks about fiction. He proposes a new concept of fiction.
当时在2011年的威尼斯双年展当中，Rancière这位哲学家他在 做了一场演讲。这个演讲的主题是我们生活在什么时代跟什么时间。在这个演讲里面，他提出了他针对虚构 fiction 这个概念有一个新的想法。
In this talk of 2011, in What Time Do We Live, Jacques Rancière will talk foremost of something he called heterochrony or heterochronia, which is a direct reference to the notion of heterotopia or heterotopia by Michel Foucault.
在这个演讲当中，他提出了一个第一个概念，叫做 heterochronic， 叫做异时性，意指相异的异，时是时间的时，异时性。这个概念是来自于福寇的这个 heterotopia， 意指的乌托邦的概念。
So to start, Rancière, he says in this talk that his aim, his goal, is to think of. See, he calls it little machines or dispositives that construct other possibilities of looking at the present.
在演讲当中，还是原先一开始提到这种微小的机器，这种微小机器它能够提出一种新的看法，让我们用不同的方式来面对现在和当下。
And so these little machines, they have a name. They are heterochrony or heterochronia. And Rancière says that heterochronism, so these little machines, they are a combination of times that are normally incompatible.
这个小的机器呢，这个黄思业就称之为叫做异时性或者异时机器。那这个机器呢，它能够去结合我们认为原本应该互相矛盾的时间。
So we could say that heterochrony or heterochronia, as it is conceptualized by Rancière, is a very specific little time machine.
所以对他而言，这个所谓小的时间、小的机器，就是一个异时性的机器，它是一个小型的时光机。在洪思业的演讲里面，他认为这是一个小的时光机。
And then he goes on to say that heterochronia is a redistribution of times that invents new capacities of framing the present.
他在演讲里面也提到了，这种的异时性跟这样的这个机器跟机制呢，可以重新去拼贴，还重新组装时间，进而让你对于现在跟当下有不同的感想跟想法。
And then to conclude with this lecture from 2011, and this is the most provocative part of it, Rancière argued that today, just as yesterday, the tension of living several times at once remains unsolved. I mean, I think we really have to dig in. So, what he says that heterochrony, this time machine, so it is a lesser time machine where we travel from one time to another, like in A.G. Wells, like in a film, like we go in the future or in the back. So heterochrony is a time machine, but that allows us, or at least Rancière wants us to think heterochrony, is a time machine that allows us to live simultaneously in several times at once.
所以在洪思业的这个演讲里面，他认为异时性这个机器就是我们刚才提到这个时光机，就好像科幻小说的时光机一样，可以让我们回到不同的时间点，同时在好几个时间点的生活。但是他在演讲最后特别提到，他认为不论是今日或者是昨天，我们如果要同时存在或同时生活在好几个时间的话，还是他的问题，而且这个机器并没有办法解决这项问题。
Later on, from 2011. Rancière has developed this notion of heterochrony, and then at one point he has combined it with the notion of fiction. So if we say that the little machine, the time machine, that would allow us to live simultaneously in several times, that this is a fiction, and I would say argue that this is the new phase of Rancière's thinking.
所以在2011年这场演讲之后，洪思业是继续发展他的演讲，后来就提出了虚构的概念。我认为他这边提到这个异时性这个时光机器，让我们能够同时在好几个时间里面同时生存跟生活，这当然是虚构的，这也影响了。这个也是后来洪思业他在提出这个有关于虚构的观点的时候，这个异时性就变成他的基础了。
And this is now a quotation from his penultimate book that I was publishing in Zagreb, Modern Times. by Rancière, where in the last essay he says, we are used to contrasting fiction understood as the invention of imaginary beings with the reality of action, and notably of political action that transforms the world. We know, however, since Aristotle, that fiction is much more than the invention of imaginary beings. It is a structure of rationality. It is a mode of presentation which makes things, situations, and events perceptible and intelligible. And it is a mode of linkage which constructs forms of coexistence, succession, and causality between events, and gives to these forms the modality of the possible, the real, or the necessary. In that sense, fiction is necessary whenever a sense of reality, an idea of the given and of its rationality must be produced.
在去年所发表的这本书叫做《摩根站现代》这本书当中，洪斯也就提出了他的关于虚构的想法。那这段引言里面，他提到的是，我们非常习惯去对比虚构跟现实、跟行动、跟生活，因为我们一向都认为虚构代表的是我们去想象跟发明一些事物，而这个现实是我们一般所看到的一些日常生活的行动，尤其是那些政治行为能够影响世界。但是其实自从亚里士多德以来，这么多世纪以来，其实一直以来，虚构这并不只是发明那些想象的事物而已，它其实是一种具有理性的结构，而且它是一种这种呈现方式，能够让我们能够去理解跟感知到我们周遭这些事物、情况跟事件，而且透过这些想象，还有透过这些虚构呢，我们其实可以去建构这些不同的事件它们之间的如何并存。如何产生次序，还有如何产生因果关系，而且这些的虚构也让我们能够去提供一些不论是可能的、真实的或必要的形式。所以换言之，如果我们要去想象任何的真实感的话，我们必须要先拥有虚构，才有可能去建构真实。
So this would be the first characteristics of what the former. So to embrace this notion of fiction, heterochronic fiction, as it was developed by Rancière.
所以这个是我们刚才提到这个形式变成前形式这个概念，或者是前什么的这个概念，所以我们必须要从这个地方开始理解，就是如果我们要去了解真实的话，就必须要去建立这种意识性或者是虚构性。
A second theorist I will rely upon in this presentation is German Jewish theorist and sociologist Alfred Zondreiter, who was mostly known. He was one of the people among the early critical theory coming from Frankfurt, and he was for a long time forgotten, or at least in the shadow of more prominent names. And his most important contribution is a book which is called On the Intellectual and Manual Labor. Das geistige Manuelle Werk. This is a book on the intellectual manual labor, which has, especially since the 90s, has become quite important for theorists like Etienne Balibar, Slavoj Žižek, and many others.
接下来今天提到的第二位理论学家是来自于德国犹太裔的这位学家 Alfred Zondreiter。这位犹太裔的理论学家，他其实是法兰克福学派的先驱，他过去相较于其他法兰克福学派的这些理论学家，也许没有这么有名。不过他最著名的一本著作，在讨论的是人力跟知识的劳动。那这本著作后来在90年代以后，也影响了很多的理论学家跟思想家。
So again, he's mostly known for his Marxist epistemology, and also for his important book on the economic structure of Nazism. But I will take here as example one short essay he has published in 1926, and which is called "The Ideal of the Broken Down." Das Ideal des Kaputten.
他最有名的著作其实是在讨论跟介绍的是这些纳粹主义的经济结构。那今天要跟各位介绍这一段话呢，揭露在他1926年的著作，当时这本著作叫做毁坏的理想。
So in this essay, Alfred Zondreiter talks about, it is a very short essay, he talks about the city of Naples, Napoli in Italy. And as all of us know, so Naples is a city of volcano, Vesuvio, and also the city of mafia.
在这篇短文当中，它其实介绍的是意大利的拿坡里。那不勒斯这个地方很特别，当然我们都知道它这当地有火山，而且当地也是有很多黑手党的地方。
So Alfred Zoll written in this short essay, he was interested the way people in Naples, how they relate toward technology, and how technology, how it functions in a city that is almost, it is so unlikely that Naples exists. It was at least once destroyed by volcano. It is almost a city so corrupt, famously corrupt, and full of crime. And he was interested in a way how technology, or how people in a city which is so unlikely to exist, how technology functions.
在这篇短文当中，他在讨论的是拿坡里这个城市跟科技之间的关系。因为一般而言，我们都认为拿坡里这个城市所在的位置跟环境实在很难继续的运作或者是维持下去。在历史上，拿坡里曾经因为火山而遭到掩埋，后来再重建。另外一方面，是因为当地有黑手党的关系，所以贪污非常的猖獗，非常的腐败。一般大家都认为，在这样的城市里面几乎没有办法运作，怎么会这个城市还可以继续运作下去？所以他好奇的是，到底人在这个城市里面跟科技之间如何产生什么关系？还有科技在这样的环境里面如何运作
？And so his first impression, and almost the conclusion, was, and I will quote him, that in Naples, Alfred Zoll says, technical devices are, as a rule, broken. So technical devices are broken. It is only under exceptional circumstances and due to some astonishing accident that something will be found to be intact. As time goes by, this is important, as time goes by, one begins to have the impression that everything is already broken before it leaves the factory.
这位理论学家他在文章里面他提到说，在拿坡里这个地方，他们现在看到几乎任何的技术装置、任何的科技装置，基本上都是坏掉的。然后只有在非常特殊的情况之下，然后大家才会非常惊人的发现，竟然有些东西还完好无缺，或者是毫发无伤。所以在随着时间的流逝，在这么多年以来呢，很多人都习惯东西什么都是坏掉的情况下，他们都会开始去假定这些东西在出厂的时候就已经坏掉了。
And this is something that today now all of our corporations are doing. This is called technical obsolescence or built-in obsolescence. But all our gadgets here, what we have, everything here is built not to, in a way, to function in infinity, but really to stop function at some point. So this is, in a way, what 1926 Alfred Zoll has discovered in Naples. This today has become a general law of almost all technical devices we have, that they have a factory built-in obsolescence, so that they stop to function at some specific point.
在1926年的时候，其实这位理论学家就预想到，或者他就预示到，在未来所有的科技公司都会做出这样的行为，就是各位所拥有的任何科技的装置、科技的工具、科技的产品，它都在当初生产的时候，它就内建会有损坏的一天，它不会永无止境的。不断的可以继续运作下去，它在某一个时间，也许过了2年、3年就一定会坏掉，这就是它的内建的瑕疵。所以在1926年的时候，这位科学家其实就已经预示或者预见到了未来所有的科技公司都会在他们的产品出厂的时候就会有这种内建的瑕疵存在。
But then, Zoll came to a paradoxical conclusion. Okay, if in Naples everything is from the start on broken, what do the people do? How they relate to the fact that everything they get is already broken. And he says, so however, so this is the inversion, however, technical devices or machines are broken, so not, however, that technical machines are broken because they do not work. For the Neapolitan people, it is only when things are broken that they begin to work. And this is, let's say, the skill of improvisation discovered by Zombretta in Naples, 1926.
他在最后这篇文章结论的时候，他提到了一个非常有趣的论点。他认为，在这样的情况之下，当所有的拿破仑的民众都认为这些东西出厂的时候就已经有瑕疵，就已经有损坏的情况，那他们就如何反应，如何跟这些有瑕疵的科技产品共存呢？当时他所提出的情况是，这些的民众他们认为这个东西，我们如果称它会坏掉，并不是因为它没办法发挥功能，或是因为它故障，而是他们认为一切东西都会在已经故障的前提之下才会开始发挥作用。换言之，他们在面对这些已经出厂的时候就已经损坏、已经故障、已经有瑕疵的情况时，他们开始有很多即兴，然后开始有很多自己有创意的方式来使用它。
So it is as if the answer of the people there in Naples to the fact that everything is broken already when they get it, it would seem that it is something which today we would call DIY, so do-it-yourself culture or hackers culture, so that in a way that people deal with the broken devices, broken machines, the way in some very skilled, informal way. So it would almost resemble something which also later on Roland Barthes has called bricolage. In a way, some kind of very specific, localized knowledge and skill.
在这样的情况之下，就好像我们现代人所称的 DIY 自己动手做，或者骇客文化。当人们都习惯东西拿到手就已经有瑕疵、已经有故障的时候，他们自己就会开发出一种新的、原创式的、有创意的方式来应用它、使用它、调整它。这个就像罗兰贝说的一样，每个地方都有他们自己的在地知识。
So it would seem that this skill of bricolage is some kind of new creativity.
所以这就是让人是一种本地产生的新创意。
But again, Zombretta discovers that for Neapolitan people it is even more. So for them to be creative, they have to do something more. And I will now just quote you how he describes a car driver or car driving in Naples. He says, and I quote, "The hair-raising verb he races, the car driver, around in his car, and if this recklessness does not result in something being smashed up, a wall along the side of the street, or donkey cart, or even his own car, then it has all been a waste of time. So everything has been smashed up. One never really owns something until it has really been knocked around. Otherwise it is just not worth it. It has to be used and abused, run down until there's practically nothing left."
一般人我们都提到，这些人面对到有问题的物件的时候，都会开始有自己的创意。但是这位理论学家注意到，拿破仑人有更进一步的做法，有更激烈或更激进的做法。在接下来这段文章文字里面，他描述的是一位驾驶他在开车的情况。他当时就描述说，这个人就非常的兴奋，非常的激烈，在开，然后他非常的横冲直撞的开这辆车。这种开法在拿破仑人迟早会撞到什么东西，也许是撞到旁边的墙，也许撞到别的车，也许是撞到，甚至是撞坏自己的车而已。但是这么激烈的做法跟这么横冲直撞的做法，他们认为，如果没有撞到任何东西的话，简直是浪费时间，简直是不可能发生的事情。可是对他们而言，他们认为这些事情、这些物件一定要经过不断的使用，不断的这些不断的发挥它极限之后呢，才可能有真正它的价值存在。所以他们说，他们必须让每个东西都物尽其用，到最后甚至完全没有任何半点的价值剩余。
So again, if you have to relate to a thing or things broken down or not non-functioning, Zombretta said, so okay, you can make a fix. You can make a DIY, do-it-yourself fix. You can become a bricoleur, you can become a hacker, you can make something working. But, so, unlike this bricoleur, hacker, or DIY person, Rettel says the only fix is not to make things work, but actually to make them even less work, to make them even less functional.
所以一般而言，我们面对到有故障的物件或有故障的这些工具跟机器的时候，我们都会想办法自己让它能够发挥作用，能够发挥出它可能的这些功能。但是对于拿破仑人而言，或这位理论学家认为，他们并不只是要让这个东西的功能变得更好，他们反而在用各种方式、各种使用跟滥用的方式，甚至让它变得功能更差或者更加的不好。
So this would be the second feature of former. So first was fiction. The second one would be the built-in obsolescence in this sense of negative fix.
所以在这种情况下，刚才提出两个不同的想法跟两个不同的案例，一个是虚构的想法，另外一个呢就是我们刚才提到这个内建的瑕疵。在这些瑕疵里面，我们产生会让这些东西从原来的东西变成前原来的东西。
Now I come to the third theorist that has inspired me a lot thinking about this topic, and this is Georges de Duberman and his notion of survival. I don't know how many of you have been on Sunday at MOCA. I have spoken there a bit more about him. But what I would say, what interested me in this context of today's presentation is the notion of survival as it was developed by the Duberman in his smaller, shorter essays and books from 2009 on.
在接下来介绍的第三位哲学家、理论学家是 Duberman。各位如果礼拜天有参加当代馆的演讲的话，他在那场演讲里面提到了更多跟 Duberman 有关的那些论述跟想法。但今天要跟各位介绍的这个概念是幸存的概念 （survival） 这个概念。在这个概念当中 ，Duberman 其实在他比较短的著作里面都曾经提到过，这些著作都是在2009年之后陆续出版。
So those are maybe 3 books also just to tell a survival of the fireflies, which is still not been translated into English, from 2009, which is a book about Pier Paolo Pasolini and Giorgio Agamben. Incredible book. So it is a book about fascism. Then the book which is called Decay, which is translated last year in English, which is about concentration camps. And then also a small book, which is an open letter, Leaving the Dark, from 2015, which is an open letter from Georges de Duberman to Hungarian film director Laszlo Nemes, who has won 2015-16, who has won an Oscar for his film Son of Saul.
今天跟各位介绍的3本 Duberman 的著作呢，2009年这本著作目前还没有翻译成英文，叫做《萤火虫的幸存》。那《萤火虫幸存》这本书要介绍的是跟法西斯主义有关的著作。那第2本书叫做《树皮》，这本书2017年去年的时候翻译成英文，在介绍跟集中营有关系的经历跟内容。第3本书叫做《Leaving the Dark》，脱离黑暗。这本书在2015年出版之后呢，当时是一封公开信。它主要去诉求的对象跟致函的对象是2015年、16年的时候获得奥斯卡奖的匈牙利导演。
What is interesting in those 3 essays is that unlike in all the other essays, previous essays by Duberman, that this notion of survival, or in French survivance, was always related to a question of images and to a question of art history. That in those 3 essays, this notion of survival, Duberman has expanded onto, let's say, other kinds of material objects. So it is not just images, but also some other objects that, upon he applies the notion of survival.
在过去Duberman提到幸存的时候，他主要的想法都诉求的是幸存跟影像的关系、跟艺术史之间的关系。但是到了这3本小书或者是3篇短文当中的时候，他把这个概念更扩充了，所以并不只是涵盖在影像和艺术史，也涵盖到了其他物件。
And so for this notion of survivance, survival, one important thing in those books will be that against, for example, Pier Paolo Pasolini, the famous Italian director, poet, and intellectual, Didier claims that, unlike for Pasolini and Giorgio Agamben, the other famous Italian intellectual and philosopher, that unlike for them to say that, in a way, that what we call fascism, in a way, has become so dominant that we can't escape out of it, that there's almost no way we can think of some alternative to fascism. Didier Berman will claim in those 3 books that there is a way of thinking an alternative to fascism, and this is if you think of a very specific experience. So that experience still is not totally corrupt, but there are some specific small or tiny things or experiences that we experience while we live that are able to be, let's say, a portal to alternative to fascism.
在这3篇著作里面，它其实主要去诉求的对象都是2位意大利的知识分子，一位是巴索内里，一位是阿达。那在这2位的知识分子，他们认为当时的时候，或者他们认为他们在所处的环境里面，法西斯主义无所不在，铺天盖地而来，几乎没有任何逃离的可能性，也没有任何的替代方案或其他的选项。但是迪沃门他提出的论点是不同的。他认为，其实从我们一般而言的生活体验，就是一些特定微小的生活体验当中，其实我们可以去想到，还有去思考到，还有去想象到其他可能的选项跟不同于法西斯主义的选项。
So first thing that survival will be experiences can still be emancipatory. So not all experiences are corrupt.
所以他在这边提到第一个问题是，并不是所有体验都已经被制约或限制住的，还是有其他可能的体验。
And the second feature of survival, as it was developed by Didier Berman in those texts, is the feature of intelligence. I have spoken a bit more on Sunday about it, but what would intelligence mean? So if we have experiences, if we have objects, if we have things, and if we claim that not all experience and things are corrupt, then the second step for Didier Berman is to say that, in a way, those things and those experiences have a new or specific kind of intelligence, a new kind of intelligence.
那在这3篇短文当中，其实迪沃门提出另外一个概念是智慧。那智慧的关系是什么呢？今天在礼拜天的演讲里面曾经有比较多的介绍。那主要提到的是，当我们有了这些事物、有了这些东西，还有这些体验之后呢，下一步我们在这样发展之下的时候，这些的新的这些的物件、这些体验，还有这些的物体，都可能会发展出新的智慧。
And related to this, Didier Berman will always quote and relate to Walter Benjamin, in a sense saying the way, so to think of alternative to fascism, or what we call fascism, would be some kind of archaeology.
在乌克兰他的文章里面，他都会提到，完全人民班雅明，那他里面都会提到，我们如果要去寻找替代或者是不同于法西斯主义的选项跟想法的时候，我们的平常的思维跟行为模式必须要类似像考古学家一样。
And I will now quote Didier Berman from this small book, Bark, from 2011. There he says that you can read out, we can therefore never say, there's nothing to see, there's no more to see. And again, to sum up this thesis, there's nothing to see, there's no more to see. You probably will know that many intellectuals after the Second World War, be it in Europe, America, Asia, or whatever, there was a general feeling that nothing can happen after the experience, the atrocious experience of the Second World War. And after the experience of mass genocide, industrial genocide. So there's nothing to see, there's no more to see. Didier Berman will say, no, this is not right, this is not correct.
在这本叫做《树皮》的小书里面，他提出了这段话，他说：“我们因此不能够永远都不能再说没有东西可以看的。那这个没有东西可以看的这句话 ，There's nothing to see, there's no more to see， 其实是来自于在2次大战之后，很多的知识分子跟哲学家，无论在欧美地区或亚洲地区，他们都有这种绝望感。他们认为，在经历过这些2次大战的创伤经验，或者是大屠杀之后，好像认为历史无法再继续发展下去，他们认为世界没办法再继续前进，所以这种绝望感认为说已经没有任何东西可以看了。但是我们认为并不是如此。”
Then he goes on to be able to doubt what we see. We must know how to see and keep looking, how to see in spite of everything, and I will add how to see like an archaeologist does. And further on, despite the destruction, the erasure of all things, we must know how to look as an archaeologist looks. And it's by way of such a gaze, such an interrogation, directed toward what we see, that things begin to look at us from their concealed spaces and bygone time. So this is for me the important step taken by Lieberman. So this last sentence.
可以看到，他语言里面写的是，如果我们要去质疑所看到的一切事物，我们必须要学习，必须要知道如何持续的观看，如何在一切的这些环境的影响之下继续的观看。他说，即便是我们面对了各种不同的摧毁、各种不同的污蔑，还有这种情况之下，我们还是要继续观看。我们必须要学得如何像是考古学家一样的观看方式，而且他认为通过这种凝视跟不断观看的过程，在这些不断的诘问之下呢，我们平常处在观看的这些事物，在某一个时刻会开始回望我们。
Because if, like the Lieberman, with the notion of survival, we say that experiences still matter, that not everything is corrupt, then the other step which the Lieberman makes is not just that we keep looking at things, objects, and the world around us, but that in a way, at some point, this is the important fact for him, things begin to look at us back. So this is the important thing. Like for Rancière, the notion of the little machine, of the time machine, of heterochromy, in a way is the ability to live in several times at once. For Didi Berman, this new moment would be that at some point, if we keep looking, if we keep engaging with experiences and with the world around us, objects by themselves, objects become active in a way, and they start to engage with us.
所以这个地方的想法就跟洪斯蒂的这不一样。洪斯蒂刚才提到是在时光机的影响之下，有这个时光机之后，我们可以同时在不同的时空、不同的时代里面生活。但是在乌克兰这边呢，他们乌克兰所提到的是，在这个体验，我们人的体验非常重要的情况之下，当我们不断去观看这些物体、这些物件的时候，因为我们的体验的关系、我们的经验关系，才能透过凝视跟这些观看的环境之下，在某一个时间点里面，我们所观看这些物件，它会活过来，然后开始跟我们有更多的交流跟更多的互动。所以这个是迪迪沃伦在这个论述里面非常重要的一点。他认为观看的结果还有观看的过程，可以让这些的物件也活过来，开始回看我们。
So this was the third feature in philosophy. So let's say fiction, built-in obsolescence, and the third would be survival.
所以今天看到这三个理论学家有三个不同的观点，一个是第一个是虚构，第二个是内建的瑕疵，第三点是幸存。
I will now switch to examples from arts. And that first, in literature, two Hungarian authors, Imre Kertész and László Krasznahorkai.
在今天提到这三个理论学家之后，接下来跟各位说明的是这样的概念跟想法在艺术界里面如何体现。那一开始要跟各位介绍这两位是来自于匈牙利的文学家。
And what you see is a quote from a short story, Union Jack by Imre Kertész from 1991. Imre Kertész, as you probably will know, was famous Hungarian writer who also has been awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature.
接下来第一个这位文学家来自于匈牙利，是1991年他撰写的短篇故事叫做《The Union Jack》。那这位文学家后来也得到了诺贝尔文学奖。
And for the longer quotation, so I will just read out a portion from Union Jack. And on one or two occasions, I was even introduced to Ernest, purely for the sake of being able to hear him introduce himself with the phrase that has since attained legendary mythical status. I was Ernest.
在这个文章这篇短篇故事里面，他其中提到的是，他说这个主角在前面有一两次的机会呢，有机会介绍、认识或者听到了这位 Ernest 这个人物。这个人物呢，其实他们主要是希望能够听他说出那句他最有名的自我介绍。那这个自我介绍这句话，后来被好像有点神秘的感觉，因为他每次自我介绍都说我曾经是 Ernest。
So again, not I am Ernest.But I was Ernest.
所以他的自我介绍不是说我是 Ernest， 而是说我曾经是 Ernest。
And I think that this invention, this formula, as it was written down by Imre, resembles, but it is also extension of the famous formula written out by Herman Melville. You will know the famous story Party of the Scrivener from the mid-19th century. I prefer not to. Formula which was then taken up by such important philosophers like Deleuze, Agamben, and many others.
所以呢，在1990年代的时候，这位小说家他曾经提到一个非常有名的一句话，叫做“我宁愿不要做什么事”。这个“我宁愿不要”这个词语或这个说法，后来呢，很多的哲学家，或者是德勒斯，或者是阿甘班，都曾经去引用这样的论点之后，再去发展出他们的说法。
And now you see so this quotation from Union Jack, and this is also again wordplay. So former formulation, radical formulation. And Goethe says, so the narrator says, through this formulation, I was Ernest, who was still living, remained, indeed became the essence of Ernest. And at the very time when he already only was Ernest.
在这个过程当中，这边这段话里面同样是一个文字游戏。那 form 还有 relation。那这边在描述的是这样的形式，刚才提到我曾经是 Ernest 这句话的这个形式跟概念，就变成了一种概念，因为这个形式的关系，大家再反复的说之后，这个形式这句话的这个形式好像变成一种概念，所以等于说透过这种概念呢，虽然说 Ernest 这个人还是存在在这个世界上，就在你眼前，可当他说我曾经是 Ernest 的时候，你好像脱离了你现在眼前那个事物，他好像现在眼前这个人已经不再是他过去的那个人了。
And I take this to good exemplary formulation of what I mean by forbearance.
所以这就是我说刚才说那个把形式加入到了某个东西事物的时候，它就变成前的某个什么事物之前。所以当我们把刚才这句话的“我曾经是Ernest”这个形式加到了 Ernest 这个人身上的时候，它就好像不是现在这个人，好像变成了这个人之前，或者是这个人过去的样貌。
Imre, he has developed his topic of I was something, I was X. He has developed it also in his other novels, which luckily now has been translated, all of them in English, and all the major languages are composed in Mandarin. So it's, I would urge you for sure to go back to him.
后来这位作家，他其实在很多的作品里面都曾经应用过“我曾是”这句话或这个形式，所以他的作品后来翻译成英文，可能也有可能翻译成世界，也有翻译世界的各大语言。所以各位有兴趣的话，也许下次可以找看这本书，就是他的其他作品里面有没有曾经使用过“我曾是什么样的人”这个概念。
But to present you a writer who is still alive, unlike Imre Kertész, it is his Hungarian fellowman, László Krasznahorkai, who is, especially with the publication of English translation of his books since a couple of years, has become celebrated and now most of his writing is available in English. I would more specifically also direct you to this very short story which was published in Hungary in 2009, the last volume, published then in English in 2016, which is a story about a person who was once a philosopher and how a person who was once a philosopher tries to cope with the fact that he was a philosopher, that he is a former philosopher. And again, it is a very short story, about 40 pages long, just one sentence. So if you're looking for also a literary experimentation in the wake of authors like Thomas Bernhard, I would say, or Imre Kertész, that this last book is a very excellent starting point of what, or in a way, literature developed this motif of X form.
在刚才提到另外一个作家，他其实前几年之后已经辞世了。那这位作家目前还在世，同样是匈牙利的作家，他的作品在过去几年陆续翻译成英文之后，其实越来越多人看到他的作品。今天为这位介绍的是这个2009年在匈牙利出版的作品，后来在2016年的时候翻译成英文，叫做《最后一只狼》。那这个短篇故事呢，总共有40页。但是它40页里面总共只有一句话，就是它是虽然这是一个很特别的文学实验，它在这40页里面只有一句话，等于说它这一句话的英文把它写成了一整篇的故事。所以各位如果要去看，比如说在文学的实验里面，如何去讨论到形式，还有如何去讨论到这个形式跟钱的概念的时候，其实这是一个很特别的切入点。
I now turn to the second example. Due to timing, we will not see all the films. So there are 5 of them, and you'll see also my apologies. All of those films are done by male filmmakers. It's not by purpose. But let's say, I guess we'll see, I guess maybe just 2 of them, maybe 3rd if we have still maybe some time left.
因为今天时间关系，他虽然准备了5部的短片要给各位欣赏，但时间关系可能只能播2到3部片，而且刚好他的这个强调只是恰巧都是男性导演拍的片子，他不是故意这样选择，只是刚好选择了5部都是男性导演的作品。
So how does cinema deal with the notion of X of the former?
今天这5部作品的介绍是如何这些电影导演如何在电影作品里面去触及到钱 former 这个概念。
There's an incredible American filmmaker, also in a way a theorist of film, Hollis Frampton, who has written an incredible short essay, 1971, for meta-history of film. This is a quotation of Hollis Frampton. No activity can become art until its proper epoch has ended, and it has dwindled, as an aid to God's survival into total obsolescence. The notion that there was some exact instant in which the tables turned and cinema passed into obsolescence and thereby into art is an appealing fiction that implies a special task for the meta-historian of cinema. So as you see in this quotation by Hollis Frampton, it is almost all of the things so far I have elaborated to you comes together.
接下来看到这个是电影论家Hollis Frampton 他所撰写这篇短文，这篇短文叫做《电影的原历史》，就是让电影过去的历史。他认为呢，在这个里面他提到的是，任何东西如果要变成艺术的话，它的前提是它必须它所在的那个时代要结束，或者它开始变慢慢的枯萎，慢慢的过时。在这样的情况之下，才有可能这个东西会变成艺术。所以，当我们认为说这个，比如说这个时代已经转变了，或者是电影变得过时的时候，它就有可能变成艺术。但是这种想法对我们也是非常吸引人，但是它可能也需要某个电影时期的人有特别的发展跟特别的情况之后，它有特别的这些发展跟特别的时空背景之后，这个东西才有可能变得过时。所以它既是现代的东西，但如果你要让它变成艺术的话，它必须要过时。所以这是一个我们刚才提到在现在跟过时，还有现在跟过去之间的一项奇妙的转折。
So for Frampton, cinema has become art or has become cinema only at the moment it has become former cinema or former art.
所以对他而言，他如果电影要变成艺术的话，它要变成前电影，或它要变成已经过时的东西，它才可能变成艺术。
It's the first of example out of experimental short films. I will show you a 2-minute film from 1997-98 by Austrian director Petar Milat, which is called The Arrival. And I will quote here Tchaikovsky. It has a bit of quotationism on the slides, so I'll just read out the first sentence. L'Arrivée, so the film. L'Arrivée is my homage to the tribute to the Lumière brothers, so the inventors of cinema. First, you see the arrival of the film itself, which shows the arrival of the train at the station. But that train collides with the second train, causing a violent crash, which leads us to an unexpected third arrival, the arrival of a beautiful woman, or the happy end. And then comes, reduced to 2 minutes, L'Arrivée, film, gives a brief but exact summary of what cinematography has made into enduring presence of our visual environment, violence and emotions. Or as an anonymous American housewife used to describe Hollywood's version of life, getting into trouble and out of it again.
所以在这里，接下来你会看到是这个2分钟的短片。那2分钟短片就是来自于奥地利的导演 Petar Milat。那他这个作品叫做《Arrival 抵达》。那这个作品里面呢，他其实这个导演他曾经说过，这部作品是要去向卢米埃兄弟这个电影历史发展之初的这部作品《火车进站》致敬。所以在这个时候，一开始你会看到，比如说在这个接下来看到这个影片，你会先看到火车进站，然后呢，你会看到这个火车撞上了第2辆火车，然后造成非常严重的撞击，然后最后呢，出现了第3个抵达，是一个非常美丽的女子，是个美好的结局。所以他说，这部作品是在2分钟之内呢，用非常简短而精准的方式去呈现出电影的发展这么多年以来，有哪一个我们在视觉和环境里面所看到不断的出现了暴力跟情绪，或者是比如说像是有一个无名的美国的家庭主妇，他曾经说过，好莱坞式的生活呢，就是让自己绝境麻烦，再脱离麻烦。
Second movie, you see, is probably one of the highlights of this year, 2018. It has been produced very meticulously by quite a big name Lithuanian artist Deimantas Narkevičius, who's quite famous within the outward circles. And this film, which you will see, it's called Dust and Scratches. It's 8 minutes long. It is actually a 3D movie, but this is a 3D movie which was done in a way, not a digital 3D movie, but analog one, analog 3D. So what we'll see is in 2D. Of course, we don't have now 3D equipment here.
所以接下来这部片呢是2018年，就是今年从推出的一部非常知名的电影。这位导演的名字是联盟哥，大家身边都不知道。
Deimantas Narkevičius。
这位立陶宛导演的名字非常难念。这位立陶宛导演他的作品呢是8分钟的这部作品，叫做《Dust and Scratches》，叫做尘埃与刮痕。那这部作品呢，它是一个3D 电影。当然，今天我们没有3D 的设备，但是它特别是它不是数位3D，它是类比3D 的8分钟作品。
So Dust and Scratches. For the context of the film, it is so. If you live within a dictatorship or authoritarian regime, so let's say this was the experience of the country I do come from, Yugoslavia. It was an experience, though we had some soft form of it. Deimantas Narkevičius come from the former Soviet Union. You come also from a country that was for quite a long time authoritarian, the Soviet Union. And what this film is about it tries in a way to reconstruct the experience of underground or almost underground performance in Soviet Union, in Vilnius, of 1970, 71, 72, underground performance of the American music of Jesus Christ Superstar. So I mean, you could guess, so in a communist country which was pretty doctrinary and like Soviet Union was, that you have a public performance or underground performance of American music, which was Jesus Christ Superstar. This was quite subversive. So in a way, what Narkevičius tries to do with this movie is, in a way, I guess, to reconstruct this, experience and to make it vivid for us.
这部作品它描述的是，其实是在过去曾经在那个独裁或者是集权的统治底下所时代里面的发生事情。当然，他们立陶宛是前苏联国家，然后第一讲者来自于这个克罗埃西亚，过去也曾经是南斯拉夫的一员，所以他们曾经经历过某些独裁跟集权的这个环境跟历史啊。台湾曾经有这些类似的独裁跟集权的经验。在这个作品当中，它实际上重现是在1971年跟72年的时候，在立陶宛的首都这个地下表演。这个地下表演，他们里面的表演的内容呢是美国的音乐。那美国的音乐，他们里面这个在表演这个主题叫做耶稣基督是超级巨星，所以这是一个在当时的集权独裁的环境里面呈现出来的非常特别、非常异于一般人所认知的这些苏联教派的表演。
And also coming to the fact that this film was produced in an epoch within the experimental cinema circles, where many of the authors doing today experimental films, as a way to respond to the emergence of digital technologies and the capabilities of digital technologies, many of the experimental filmmakers today have gone into shooting films again on celluloid, on film, on old formats of 16 or 8mm films.
所以像我们现在讲，就是很多的实验性的导演跟实验性的作品，现在面对到了很多的过去的这些实验性的导演，他们都在做这些实验作品的时候，都在尝试不同的可能性。但现在有了这些数位科技之后的，这些导演他们在做实验性创作手法，然后回到过去底片拍摄的时期，或者他们使用更传统、更类比的形式来拍摄作品。
So unlike them, unlike those filmmakers who now go back to shoot film on the movies on film, 16mm, Narkevičius does something else. So he uses 3D technology. He uses, let's say, digital new technologies, capabilities of doing 3D movies, but he constructs a 3D movie in an analog way, not a digital.
所以，相较于那些实验性的导演，他们开始使用8厘米、16厘米的底片来拍摄作品。这位导演他的方式又跟他们不太一样，他采用的是新的3D 的技术，但是他们运用3D 数位技术之后，去建构出画面，是建构出类比型的画面。
Yeah, so let's see us So this was the Mantas Narkevičius Dust and Scratches. As I told you, so again, for the full experience of this film, you should have seen it really like, at least also, this was at least informative for you. And now I come to the very last thing, and quite short, so as not to go too much over time. Well, I'll let you now a piece. So this is so this is music produced by Petar Milat, American-Japanese artist. Actually, American who lives in Japan, a trans person, one of the major representatives of experimental electronic music from the 90s, who for a long time, though he was active for a long time, almost 15 to 20 years, in a way, he was very reclusive until the piece, which is called Deproduction, or project which is called Deproduction, and which was very prominently featured last year at famous Documenta exhibition.
所以接下来就要介绍这位是美国一个日本的音乐家。那这位音乐家其实在90年代的时候非常出名，他在做的是实验电子音乐。但后来过去是了20年之间，其实他的在外界听到的消息并不多，一直到去年的时候，他的这部作品叫做 Deproduction。这个作品的计划呢，才在卡塞罗建成非常吸引人的作品等等的出现跟演出。
So this what we are hearing, this is a piece, it's called Admit It's Killing You and Leave. And the genre specification is sound reading for gay porn. And there is also did a video of it with outtakes out of Japanese porn videos.
接下来这个段落呢，叫做 Alice's Killing You， 就是承认这件事情让人痛苦，而且并且离开。他们说他们划定的类别是他们这个叫做为了同志色情电影所做的音声响跟朗读。所以他们在这个当中的时候，其实这个是他们当时创作的时候所划定的类别。
So the whole idea of deproduction of this project, and I would say that this is one of the today music, this kind of music, if it is allowed to say that this is a masterpiece or a piece of highest importance, that deproduction by Template is such a piece. It is driven both by artistic and by activist imperatives.
在这个作品呢，它之所以重要性是因为它其实有艺术的成分，同时它也会有社会运动的主张成分。然后刚才提到这部画面里面呢，有一部分的内容是来自于日本的情色电影的片段。
In this case, what does it mean for an artist who is also activist within the queer movement, to revisit a genre of music, disco music, what we hear, also produced by. So, what does it mean to revisit the genre disco? From 70s, early 80s, which today many queer people worldwide take as the point of nostalgia, because this was the music in a way before AIDS has come up. So what does it mean to revisit a genre, a music, a specific location that in a way with the emergence of AIDS has been destroyed?
在这个情况之下，这个艺术家他其实也是社会运动分子，他在回顾这个时期是 disco 的时期。disco 时期的音乐呢，是在1970、80年代那个时候的那个环境。现在很多的过人运动的人士，他们去回想或是去追怀旧，或者说回想这个时期，是因为那个时候人类还没有发现艾滋病的存在。所以在这样的情况之下，我们现在在2008年、2007年去重新回顾这个时期的音乐有什么样的意义？
Because usually, if we would refer to this point nostalgically, we would think of that there was something, so that there was something, also in this music, in the situation in disco, not in disco, also in the closet, in the toilet, that there was some promise, that there was some utopia that has in a way promised something new to emerge. And that template, in their regard, is incredibly critical. And he says, no, I mean, if we should be nostalgic about the time of disco, so 70s, early 80s, it is not so much because there was a promise that we, queer people, could in a way become emancipated in the way that we become integrated into the bigger society. But there was a promise of something else. And this something else is a quotation that we just here say.
所以在这个时候，他们谈到是一般的孤儿运动，他们会去想象的是在1970年、80年代，在 disco 时期的时候，也许那个时候他们看到是某一个希望的承诺，因为那时候很多人都还在柜子里面，他还没有出轨，他们还在想象未来能有机会可以去，也许进入主流社会，或者是融入这个整个社会组织的可能性。但是这个音乐家认为，他觉得这个时候我们要去想象，或者我们回顾这个时候，是因为我们当时看到的是另外一种的承诺，另外一种的希望可能性。而这种承诺跟希望可能性，就是他接下来各位在画面上看到的这一段话。
So you see, there isn't much time. We have to skip the foreplay. Yes, having children is unethical. Second, families make democracy impossible. So in a way, it is for a trans person. So, as if Petar Milat says, also with his music, the way he treats disco as a genre, it is not so much, again, for a trans person. It is not about the dream of becoming integrated into society. It is not a dream of having children or family. It is something else. It is, in a way, much more punk than today queer movement likes to have it. It is, in a way, no future, no kid.
所以他认为，他当时这段话写的是现在时间不多，我们必须要跳过前期，所以他们认为，但是他认为，比如说，不要对小孩是不道德的，或者是家庭让民主没法继续生存下去。他认为那个时候有些人现在的孤儿运动人士希望能够融入社会，融入整个大的环境，然后能够有家庭、有小孩等等。但是这位音乐家认为，在1970年代、80年代，他们其实所想象的未来是更激烈的，或者说他们是没有家庭、没有孩子的未来。
And so maybe to conclude that this imperative posed by a trans activist artist, as Petar Milat says, is again also highly provocative, almost as a science fiction. Because both those propositions we see here on the slide, having children as unethical, families make democracy impossible, it runs counter to everything which we usually would assume make democracy possible and ethics possible. So anyway, I take it also the same way Rancière spoke about time machines and the development of survival in a sense where things become active. I take this also as being incredible provocation for us to think as a trans person what it means to deal with time, history, future, and past.
在这边看到他们这个化性别者，他们所提出的这个想法是非常积极、非常不同于一般的认知的。他们认为有小孩是不道德的，家庭让民主不可能继续运作下去，这跟我们一般认知的相反。所以他们就像刚才一开始提到那个，提到关于幸存、关于时装机器，还有关于未来有没有可能有新的让物体变得有活起来的可能性。这个音乐家还有他们的想法，这些跨性别人的想法，让我们能够重新去思考，到底在现在音乐还有历史之间的关系有什么样不同的思维方式。
That's a bit. So thank you for your patience. I hope you will have some comments, provocations, questions to this one. Maybe so we can also use the music. Just go like elevator music. So that would probably wouldn't have anything against it. So thank you once again.
我们非常谢谢，就是说，Petar，就是说跟我们分享他的一些研究，还有，他也带来了一些材料，就是说，其实我们在台湾可能大家比较没那么熟悉的材料。那 我不晓得，就是说，各位在听了以后，你们有没有什么样的感受或者说什么样的回馈，或者说你们有没有什么样的想法或问题都可以来趁这个时候来跟Petar有一个交流。
Hello. Actually, the translation of the poster of your title is different because 流变赋形者 means how to format the becoming. But actually, what you're talking about is about how the past or former can become something else or something new, right? So my question is that because I'm quite curious about this kind of like a treat cinema as archive or kind of a found image, and then to transform it to something else, right? So my question is that how can we discern or say to judge something have already been formed? What I mean is this out of date, and then I can translate as some kind of new. So how can we decide this is out of date? So because after your speech, something like when we found AIDS, so there's a very dramatic incident or say event in a global sphere, right? So then we can translate back to the period that we didn't find AIDS, right? So how can we decide something is already being formed? In a philosophical way or in a social critique way? 因为海报上面是流变赋形者嘛，好像是把流变变成造型，或者是给它一个形式。但实际上今天讲它原来是在讲那个过去的东西怎么样流变成新的，或把它变成一个什么别的这样子。那我的问题是说，我们怎么样去判断或决定那个东西会变成旧的，或者是那个已经过时的，以至于我们可以把它变成新的。对，那因为刚刚我听到比较明显的例子，比方说我发现艾滋，然后发现艾滋是一个那个扭曲的现象或什么的时候，我们想要回到一个没有艾滋的那个时期，所以我们怎么样确定它是过时的，以至于我们可以再改变它这样？谢谢。
And it is a reference to a movie by Marguerite Duras, 1977. It's called in French Le Camion, in English Truck or Lorry. It is a movie, it is a very simple movie. So you have one part of the film shows a truck going around the French roads, around the, let's say, French periphery. So it is without anything, without dialogues, it is just being shot, a truck which goes around. And the other part of the movie is Marguerite Duras in her working study, in her working room, who talks with Gérard Depardieu, the actor. And they speak a lot. But there is one formula almost comparable to I Prefer Not To by Bartleby from Herman Melville, or I Was Ethnicist by Imre Kertész. And this is a formula which repeats many, many times in Cameo by Marguerite Duras. And she says, the only politics is that the world goes to hell. So if you would ask me, like in the case in Naples, as Alfred Zonredo, that he told, you know, okay, if you have a machine broken, usually then you try to fix it, to repair it. But the people in Naples fix it or repair it the way they even make it more kaput, more dysfunctional. So maybe this is the activist thing. And I guess now what I have said to you is also in a way how generation from the 60s on and so they had screened Godard's Wind from the East here during the exhibition a couple of times. So this was, let's say, an answer, nihilist answer, so that world goes to hell, so that we have in a way made world go to hell. This is the only politics. This was the answer that was embraced, imperative that was embraced by almost all generation worldwide, by filmmakers especially. So they went militant, they have become radical, many of them communists, some of them terrorists. For example, also the case of Harun Farokhi. Harun Farokhi, one of his fellow students, Holger Mainz, who was first generation of Academy of Film and Television in Berlin from mid-60s. Holger Mainz, he was Farokhi's fellow student, and later on he, in a way we should say, he committed suicide while he was in prison as terrorist of the Baader-Meinhof group. Probably the same would go for many Japanese artists who also went into underground and became terrorists. So in a way, this was, let's say, for the generation, this was the answer. Okay, I guess today they are probably different. I mean, there are not many terrorists around. We probably know that let's say, Al-Qaeda terrorist was an accomplished artist in the way. Though, for example, maybe you recall the famous German composer Karl-Heinz Schaffhausen, the moment 9/11 happened, he claimed that 9/11 and the trashing of the two twins was the highest possible or the best possible artwork ever was created. At any rate. So I would say maybe in this sense that something is out of date, it needs intervention. It needs, it seems, intervention like this imperative that a thing that does not work, make it even less work.
1977年的时候 ，Nicholas 有一部作品叫做《Transversality》。这部作品里面其实有两个画面，左边的画面就是一个卡车，它在法国的乡间一直在开，就行驶在法国乡间。然后另外一个呢是这位导演跟一位演员之间的对谈。然后这是一个他想到的画面。那当时他们就提出这个，无论这个导演还是很多的电影界人士都提出这个观点，他们认为说，唯一的政治就是让世界坠入地狱，这是他们的想法。就好像我刚才提到那个在拿破仑的案例一样，如果他们面对的是这个已经有瑕疵的机器，当然会想要把它修好，但是拿破仑把它修好的方式是让它变得坏的更严重，或者是功能的瑕疵变得更糟。然后在这次当代馆其实播出了好几次高达的作品，在1960年代作品的时候来自东方的风。那其实很多那一辈的电影人，他们世界各地的电影人，有很多人因为相信我刚才提到的唯一的政治就是让世界坠入地狱的想法之后呢，他们变得比较好战，变得比较积极，甚至开始走上了恐怖分子之途。例如说 Farokhi 他在德国影视学院的第一批学生，他们当时就有学生后来就在因为参与一些的激进的行动，然后被捕入狱之后，在狱中自杀。其实很多日本的导演，他们后来也有一些类似的想法。当然，现在的情况比较不一样，我们现在比较少看到这些知名的艺术家，同时也是盖达组织的恐怖分子。但是，的确还是有一些人有这样的想法，他们认为在世界趋于介入跟崩坏的时候，才有可能有这个新的政治可能性发生的情况。比如说，在9·11事件发生的之后呢，德国的作曲家曾认为9·11事件是史上能够做出来最棒或者最杰出的艺术品。所以，如果要去判断什么东西变得过时的话，今天讲者认为还是要有介入的机会，有一个介入的时刻，有一个介入的行动或行为的时候。才能够去判断的东西是否是过时、新的翻转的可能性。
And also to maybe make an answer related to a more, let's say, to a younger generation of filmmakers. I mean, you will know that there is a fashion, almost a fashion, a hype today for filmmaker to say that he, and usually it is just them, he. So it's usually just male person who say this, claim this, to say that they have shot their last film. So it was Petar was the sort of Hungarian writer also who collaborated with Laszlo Krasznahorkai, was I guess probably the first one. He's told, you know, I've done my last film. Then it was Chen Yang. I mean, you know that Tsai has done new films, but he, in a way, it was a feature film. So Stray Dogs was, in a way, his last feature film. Then even Apichat Poversetnakov also said, you know, this is my last film. In a way. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You know, I mean, what it means to make a last film. And as a text also reference, I mean, since Chen Hong is a pupil of Jacques Rancière's, Rancière has dealt with this topic of the last film. What does it mean to make a last film? In his book on Bellatar. So this book is called Le Temps d'après, the time after. Bellatar, the time after. So what it means actually to shoot a last film? Can you make a last film? So I would say, no, it's interesting also as a way of a strategy. Again, nobody, so Bellatar has not become terrorist, neither Tsai, Apichat Hong or whatever. But it seems like a virulent, so it's a question that is really around, and that in a way, the film we have seen by Demantas Stankevičius, it is interesting that in the moment when many people trying to answer these questions, they go back in history, and they also in a way become fetishists, in a way. I mean, this is that become really some ethical hype almost. That Narkevičius has, in a way, and some really subtle thing. I mean, he has produced a 3D movie in analog way, and you know, I was in the jury at the festival in Oberhausen this year. It was so weird. It was also the first movie we have seen in the entire competition. Immediately, we were struck by it. So it was unanimous decision. We have seen that this is a really incredible piece. Unfortunately, now I mean we don't have 3D equipment here, but also the play with layers, how he plays with the layers. So, but again, so I guess it's difficult. I mean, it is less obvious for us today than it was for 40 years ago, or it is maybe even less obvious for us than it is for such accomplished artists like Bellatar, Tsai, or Apichat Hong, who in a way already have done what they should have done. In a way, I mean, they accomplished already so much that in a way they are privileged enough to, in a way, to say, yeah, we are now former filmmakers.
现在年轻一辈的这些电影人，他们有好几对电影人，比如说刚刚在或者是好几对电影导演，他们会曾经说过，说这是我拍的最后一部电影。然后好斯也曾经在他的书里面，这个特书说 The Time After 之后的时间里面去讨论到底这个最后一部片的意义是什么，有没有可能拍出最后一部片？但是这样的情境其实也是反映出了很多人他们希望去有一个节点，然后去通过这个节点之后去开始新的不同的事情。现在看到很多的导演，他们都常常回溯历史去寻找一些新的可能性。那我们刚才看到这个立陶宛的导演，他的作品。它其实是非常特别的，因为讲着他在上次去评选这个影展的时候，他们看的第一部片的时候，看到这部片，他们觉得他用非常特别的方式，他们用他们用3D 的方式去拍摄出了类比的电影。当然，今天没有3D 的设备，没办法用3D 的方式看出来，但是他的确在做层次的时候有很多巧思、很多精细的手法。现在的人跟40年前的人有点不一样，但是我们也许现在跟40年前的当然情况不一样。40年前的导演，他们可能在诉求的方式跟诉求的方法，跟我们现在所呈现的所有的实证的方式不一样。但是也的确因为时代的关系之后，我们现在看到导演他们是用不同的形式、不同的方式，能够去找出翻转的可能性跟翻转的切入点。
First, ask some question about the film you showed us. The film, all kind of film remind a type of film called structural film, like Holly Spenton and Michael Snow or George Lando. Especially the film decay. It's similar to George Lando's films that expose the spooky hole in the film. So I wonder about the structured film and your concept of form, the relation between these two concepts. Because for me, the structured film, they usually expose the form and let the form become collapse, like Holly Spenton's films. The picture is burning, the audio track is broken. So I wonder the structural and form, the difference, and especially Frampton's film, Nostalgia, and I wonder about the former. The structural films director usually let a film destruction or broken down. So it's the way like an experimental film. You let the cinema broken down or deformalize them, so the image can become a former. This is my question. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, first of all, I would say that probably in a formal sense, in the sense of formal, I mean of genre in a way, I would say that in a way we are still living in the very same epoch of structural films. I would say that everything that was produced in mid-60s, from mid-60s on, up until today, that we have not moved beyond it. So this would be my first guess, rather guess. My second would be more contextual intuition, is that, say, if usually how we think about the development of arts, if you think that there is a process of art or specific genre becomes ever more radical or ever more clear or ever more crystalline, so it's become a kind of a crystal, then or even more absolute, pure. I guess that already the many of the films, also the authors you have mentioned, that in a way they have done it already in a way, and it is like in the painting. It was difficult to go beyond Malevich, in a sense. I mean, how can you go after producing Black Quadrant? Or how you can go after Duchamp, after his ready-made. That in a way, but again, I'm coming to the point I had done on Sunday at MoCA in my talk. It is exactly Godard again. I take that if we are trying to get the just image, the right image, the absolute image. Let's say that everything theorists like Didier-Berman may have convincingly, at least for me, have shown that this search or this quest for an absolute image actually ends up just in destroying all images. And that in a way, and there I would concur and I would agree with Didier-Berman that destruction of images in a way resembles destruction of people. And this is something in my talk which I have elaborated on Sunday. That, for example, for Harun Farokhi and Didier-Berman, question of production of images is tightly linked to the question of destroying the people or destruction of people. And so coming. So I mean it's long answer. But so if in a quest of specific formal issues, let's say, of structuralist filmmakers, avant-garde experimental filmmakers, I would say that we are still living in the same epoch, like them. I mean, in a way, we can't say that we have gone beyond this politics. But what I think is that we for sure have lost not the illusion, but the idea that the only our imperative is to get to the absolute image. And I would say that in that regard, the Duberman has done incredible pioneering work. Not so much maybe in relation to filmmaking. I mean, he comes kind of second-hand. But in relation to visual arts. And in especially think his dialogue and his collaboration with Gerhard Richter. What's my point? That for a visual artist or painter like Gerhard Richter, his medium of painting, he treats it something completely else than a filmmaker does. And especially in those, which actually almost 2 or 3 books or bigger essays that the Duberman has produced on Gerhard Richter, which provoked then Gerhard Richter back to draw paintings in a way after the Duberman, and then the Duberman replied again to those paintings by Richter. So it was a kind of mutual interplay between them. This question of how to still think in images without the almost terrorist imperative to get to the just, to the absolute, to the right image, which means destroying all other images, and also then on the other side how to produce images in the epoch where we know that, as Guy Debord has also convincingly shown, that the society of a spectacle, that the main, let's say, gross domestic product, so the main product, the main economic product today is to produce, so the main economy of today is to produce images. Also to be aware that images circulate and that images are in a way the most economic thing there. So again, maybe the Duberman is not too convincing for myself in the question how he deals with film. There, again, I would say it's interesting that he is much better in a way in older media. And he talks, in a way, he comes in dialogue with Gerhard Richter. And then in a sense, yeah, you know, it's in a sense, yeah, it's interesting. Actually, the older medium of painting, of a tableau, is more potent than the younger medium, which is called film or cinema. So it's interesting. You know, I mean, I would say again, it's a long answer, but yeah, I mean, but I will have to think upon what you try to elaborate on that.
如果以诗歌类别而言，其实今天讲的人文从60年代这个双人落地到现在，其实并没有脱离这个时代，我们不能说我们超越这个时代。然后以艺术发展而言，其实在我们在思考这个类别的这些类别的时候，其实都会在希望能够去找到更纯粹、更清晰、更接近或者更 更接近的成果。然后，但是我们也看到很多组其实基本上前人都已经做过，比如说我们看到了像我们运用了现成物之后，我们要如何去超越这些的现成物的发展，这些都是现在人所面临的环境跟情况。那一方面我们在追求这些的，就像刚才曾经提过，他们在追求这个正当的影像、正确的影像、是好的影像的时候，他们这些的观点是我们要去追求这个最极致的影像，但是第一部分还有这些，比如说 Farouk 他就认为，一般的时候他们在传统的概念里面，如果你要去追求这个绝对的影像的时候，你就等于要去摧毁其他影像，其他他们认为不够绝对的影像，而第六部分还有 Farouk 都认为。你在摧毁其他影像的时候，等于其实在摧毁其他的人或其他的生命，所以他们有不同的看法。那其实，对于讲者而言，迪迪沃伦对于电影的看法，他认为并没有办法完全的说服他，但是他认为迪迪沃伦跟视觉艺术之间的关系跟互动其实是比较频繁密切的。比如说他跟Richard 他们之间的互动，他例如说他会写出文本之后，这位画家会依据他的文本之后去作画，然后这个做画的作品出现之后，迪迪沃伦在写撰文去描述或回应他，这个互动之间关系是比较密切跟比较频繁出现的。现在我们在追求这些形式上的议题的时候，其实我们之前讲的认为我们并没有超越那个前卫时代，或者是刚才提到这个 structure film 的时代，我们还是在同一个时代当中，但是我们好像常常会在未来去追求这个绝对的影像跟绝对的画面的时候，因此会有点迷失，或者因此有一点没办法这么的清楚的说明我们到底要追求的是什么。而且现在在现在的时代里面，其实很多的经济的，现在最主要的经济的物件就是要去产制这些的影像，而影像也是非常主要的一个经济的运作的来源跟经济的基础。所以今天讲的认为，迪迪沃伦相对于他处理或者是讨论到电影的时候，其实他对跟这些旧的媒体或者比较旧的媒体是绘画等旧媒体，反而他的论点更容易去说服讲他的想法。所以他现在只是一个非常大略跟此时此刻的论点。他如果要跟各位详细或者更深入讨论的话，还要再进一步的想一想，可以回答得更清楚。
Also, in a way to conclude, I mean, regarding your question. One thing which was, last year I was researching upon those things. Again and again watching, let's say, the canon of experimental cinema from the 60s on. It is appalling in a way, appalling. I mean appalling, but disastrous in a way. But it is just made. So, we could almost do a canon, which is easy. I mean, Deleuze, Rancière, Duberman. Then you have Pasolini, which is with his texts on cinema from the 60s. Then you have Ingmar Bergman again also coming. Then you have Jonas Mekas. Then you have E. Adams Sidney. Then you have all the Americans and Canadian and European structural filmmakers. Mainly filmmakers. And they can, in a way, disagree in all the points. But it is always just male who talk about male, other males. And there, in this almost history what I'm just telling, there's no figure. And you're always struck. I mean, the moment you realize it, and then almost all the aesthetical differences among those filmmakers, those theorists, in a way vanish. In a way, I mean, disappear. Then you see they're just kind of, it is more a gang of brothers, or bond of brothers than anything else. And I have become interested, I mean, after I realized that in that way, even with the theorists who have been my main inspiration, what it would mean to, not just out of some, let's say, to do justice to feminism, not to do justice to feminism, but out really of intellectual honesty, what it would mean, what something else would mean. How, for example, then someone like, let's say, just naming the most important names like Chantal Akerman or Margaret Devas or many other female filmmakers, how they fit into this. And what you see is they don't fit, because they're never there. They are maybe sometimes, sometimes they're called upon, but almost like a straw woman. Like, as just a legitimation to see, okay, we have become a little bit conscious about, aware of the fact that it's just male. So I think also it's a part of our problem to answer this question, that the canon or the corpus of what, even when it is emancipatory, or more emancipatory, where it is very aware of all the formal and material necessities around political necessities, but again and again, it is very closed off male society. So it's also part of it.
我去年在研究的时候，其实注意到，就是从60年代来看这些作品的时候，都其实非常的明显。除了从人类只是从日本、华盛顿一代、华本人，还有美国、欧洲，还有美国、加拿大、欧洲这些的电影人的时候，其实基本上他们不会有什么样的意见的起见、不一样的想法，但是他们都是一群男性，然后一群男性在评论其他男性，里面完全没有任何女性的角色出现。所以如果你是用这样的方式来看的时候，他们彼此之间的美学起见其实都会一并消失，他们基本上就是一群兄弟、一群帮派一样。当然，并不是要完全是以女性主义的角度来思考这些问题，但是如果你去回想这些，其实还是在这段时间里面，还是有很多的女性的导演，要么就是导演存在，可是他们完全在这一个讨论或这一个论述里面完全消失，或者如果出现的话，只是聊了一个或是点缀而已。所以这也是我们在讨论这个问题，还有这个形式，还有政治问题的时候，必须要去面对的情况是，在这个过去这段时间里面，这一系列都是由男性主导的男性评论的环境里面，女性是相对缺席的。
因为时间也差不多，然后在最后我还想再就是说也是稍微分享一下，就是说立即进来的一个对我来讲可能一个比较重要的想法，因为其实包含我们的展览在谈，而且最近台湾都在谈转型正义，然后其实现在越来越多的艺术家其实都投入在所谓的 archive 这件事情上面。可是那里面其实我们有非常多在想象、在重新思考跟想象这些问题的时候，其实大部分存在的态度其实就是重新发现真实。就是说我们还是活在这样的一个单轴线时间的一种逻辑里面，就是说，不管在所谓转型正义，或者在所谓的使用档案在进行艺术创作的时候，其实还是活在那个，就是说发现真实。然后另外一个其实就是，我如何用当下来对这个所谓的真实的材料去进行一个想象跟幻想。可是我在想，就是说今天贝塔他所提供出来关于 FOMO 这个想法的时候，其实，确实他跟公司业在这几年，其实在工作的一个，就是说重新在思考，时间这件事情跟人的关系，其实，我觉得非常密切。那它其实是有可能提供一个更为细致的，然后更为结构性的角度来切入到一个所谓先前的材料或所谓的 archive 这件事情。就是说也要谢谢贝塔，就是说，因为他其实是 Modern Times 这一本公司业的书的一个主编，然后也是他去构成这本书的一个逻辑。那就是他非常慷慨的，其实就是允诺了，就是说这本书的第一章其实就是公司业他在谈justice of time。 就是时间的正义这件事情，这样的一个观点，就是会收录在我们这个展览的主办品里面。那当然贝塔关于，我们也会希望贝塔关于 formal 的这个想法的文章也会在我们的研究资料的主办。那最后再谢谢各位今天来参加，然后也谢谢贝塔给我们带来他的研究，谢谢。然后也要谢谢我们的及时的